The UN says the suffering in Ukraine constitutes a human rights crisis. The head of the UN's Human Rights Agency says fighting has killed more than 9,000 people, wounded more than 21,000. Foreign ministers of Germany, France, Russia, and Ukraine are meeting in Paris to discuss implementation of last year's Minsk peace plan. Meanwhile, the United States extended sanctions against Russia over its role in the Ukraine crisis. CCTV's Lyubova reports.
Moscow says it regrets Washington's decision to extend sanctions against Russia for another year. U.S. President Barack Obama extended Executive Order 13660 on Wednesday, outlining sanctions against certain Russian individuals and entities over Moscow's role in the Ukrainian crisis. However, analysts say that this decision came as no surprise for Moscow.
The problem is that in our U.S.-Russian relations, there is a very clear separation between bilateral relations and cooperation on international issues like Syria and now North Korea. So it was very clearly indicated about a month ago by U.S. administration that cooperation on, for example, on Syrian issue doesn't mean that the United States will step back on the sanctions policy against Russia.
As well as the U.S., the European Union has decided to extend its sanctions against 149 Russian and Ukrainian nationals it sees as responsible for the conflict in Ukraine for further 6 months. The list includes senior Russian politicians and close allies of Russia's President Vladimir Putin. Relations between Moscow and the West deteriorated sharply over Russia's annexation of Crimea from Ukraine almost 2 years ago. The US, the EU and some other countries imposed several rounds of sanctions on Russia's energy, banking as well as defense industries. Moscow responded with the EU and US food import ban. It's not clear if Russia will respond with any countermeasures. But people in Russia are divided over how they think the government should react.
I don't think we should pay attention to this. We have survived so far, and we will survive again.
I think that Russia should cooperate with the U.S. and work out the issues why we ended up in this situation. We have to cooperate and end the conflict in Ukraine.
The sanctions are applicable to a number of Russian citizens, including state officials and to officials of the government of Ukraine's former president Viktor Yanukovych. Apart from that, a number of Russian companies and businessmen, as well as the leaders of the self-proclaimed Donetsk and Lugansk republics, also fell under the sanctions. Lyubova, CCTV, Moscow.